All right, we are live on Facebook. It's a Thursday night. We're recording. I'm John Mercer, president of Las Vegas Tri Club. I got Bob Gamble here for the Thursday night Las Vegas Tri Club Spotlight. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
It's doing wonderful. Thank you, sir. How are you? Hey,
Good,
folks.
good. Yeah, it's always good to do these spotlights, and this is going to be a fun one. I
Yeah, it
can
is.
tell already. So we already had a little conversation with Carrie ahead of time, and we got Carrie Fox here, and I don't want to steal too much of Bob's introduction, but Carrie is part of Team Bad Decision that we want to hear about, and I'll tell you what, they have some of the most fun training, and so it's going to be neat to hear her story, getting into triathlon, and some of her goals as well. So welcome, Carrie.
Hello. Hi, guys.
And I'll kick it off to Bob for the official introduction.
All right. Thank you, John. And welcome, Carrie. This is going to be fun tonight.
Yes,
And for the folks who are listening, Carrie has been with the club since 2017, but she's done triathlons since 2012. Started her first triathlon, and we're going to ask her about this, with Iron Girl in 2012. And before we get started, though, I'm just curious about Team Bad Decision. Two things. What is that all about, and how did they get their name? And where did that name come from?
Well, it was kind of funny. Me and two of my other friends that I used to run with all the time, we signed up for the Ironman St. George to do a relay, and we were Team Bad Decision. That's the name that we picked. And they both backed out. And then I had Dave and someone else Dave did the run, Dave Ellsworth did the run, and I had someone else from Pro Cycler do the bike. And our bib said Team Bad Decisions. And ever since then, that's what we've stuck with, Team Bad Decisions.
And when was that coined? That was in 2017 or so.
Yeah, probably like 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
And also, so that everybody else knows a little bit about Carrie, one thing I forgot to mention, she has done all distances of triathlons. She did everything from sprints to full Ironman distance. And tell me something, that 2012 Iron Girl, what distance was that? Was that a full?
The sprint.
That was a sprint? Okay.
It was out at Lake Las Vegas.
Mhm.
I did it. I thought I could just do a triathlon. I did it with zero training. Just went out.
And what was that like?
I went on the last ones, but that swim was rough.
And it's like you learn from mistakes, right? So you learned a little bit on that one, didn't you?
Yes, a lot.
Carrie,
And then I did the same triathlon the next year, and I improved by 45 minutes. So
Whoa. Yeah.
now was that the year, Carrie, you started talking about the swim? Was that the year that it started on the sort of beach on the north
Mhm.
side and then out in the cove? Yeah, and that was cold water.
Yes, I did have a wetsuit though. I did, but I
Yeah.
never swam in it prior to that race.
Oh my. And that's a new experience altogether. It's like, why is this thing choking me and I can't breathe, right?
I doggy paddled the whole way.
Well, okay, so I want to hear about this because I love hearing stories about people getting into the sport. And here you're saying you did no training, so I want to know a little bit about your sport background and then what led into you doing Iron Girl Sprint.
I was a gymnast for most of my younger years, from when I was 9 till I was like 18. And in high school, I was a springboard diver.
Wow.
And then after that, I played softball. And then I started working at the base at Nellis Air Force Base, and they all run there. So that's how I got into running. They all got me to run with them. And then that's when I decided I wanted to try a triathlon, because we used to do a bunch of running races. So I was like, I just want to try a triathlon. So I did have training in running, but just not swimming or biking.
Like, I'm going to do a triathlon and I can run. So, well, what else is there? And I'm right.
And now running's my worst. I can swim and bike better than I can run.
Well, the gymnastics helped with that, I'm sure.
Mhm.
You probably have a really good foundation and core strength and everything.
I do. That's the one thing that's the strongest is my core.
Well,
So
I think
go
that's
ahead, John.
neat. That's neat. I mean, gymnastics and springboard diving, on one hand, you don't think of those as endurance sports, but that's that mental aspect of being an athlete. And obviously, the training of both those sports is quite immense. And so that's pretty neat that you had the confidence of saying, I'm just going to go do a triathlon. I love it. That's great.
I think
And what kind of bike did you use in your first one?
like a mountain bike, like a hybrid mountain bike. Those hills were hard
Yeah.
on that bike, but I did it.
And that's something else that's really important for everybody to hear, especially the new folks. It's like, you don't have to, your first triathlon, you don't have to, kill it for time and go for the podium and be on a, excuse me, that came on all of a sudden. Sorry about that. But you don't have to have a tri bike or an expensive bike, and you don't have to, really be going for the podium. So that's kudos to you for diving in like that on a mountain bike, and not being, having a lot of experience swimming too.
Okay,
It was
rough. Let's back up just a bit here, because I want to hear more about this Iron Girl, because this is so neat. And this Iron Girl event was the first event for a lot of people, and it's really neat that that event was here, and it really was an entryway in for a lot of people to get into the sport. All right, so what did you do training wise before you were on the beach ready to start?
Nothing. Me and my friend just decided we were going to do it, and neither one of us really trained, and we just went along with it and did it. There was no real training.
Oh, I
And
love it.
who was that did it with you?
Her name is Penny. That's the only triathlon she ever did.
Oh, talk you into it and then bail out, huh?
Yes. I've had that happen many times.
All right, so I remember that start, you had a sort of zigzag down in a line to get to the beach. I mean, what was going through your mind as you were approaching the start line, and now you're in a wetsuit that you've never even swam in before at this point? So what's going on?
I was excited. I love the water. I love to be in the water. So I was excited. And then about 100 meters in, I was like, oh, what am I doing here? I can't swim this. And so I just literally doggy paddled the whole time.
Oh, wow.
It took me a long time to do that swim. I think it was like almost 40 minutes.
Well, I think, I did kayak support for that race a couple of times, and I think you're talking about that. That's what I can't remember. That was the year that there was lots of wind and waves on top of the cold water, but it was not an easy swim.
It wasn't. And plus, like in Lake Las Vegas, you can't see. It's like swimming in Tempe Town Lake. You can't.
That's true.
Under the water, like you can at Lake Mead.
Oh, that's right.
That was another reason why I didn't want to put my face in the water, because you couldn't see.
Yeah, that's right. There's no visibility in Lake Las Vegas. All right, so you got through the swim, which is pretty cool. And now you're getting out, and it's quite a run back up to the bike. I mean, what was that like, getting up to the bike even?
Oh, I was just happy I was out of the water.
Yeah.
I was happy to get
Yep.
to my bike, that part was over, because that was a rude awakening.
Yeah.
So I was happy to get on the bike, and then that first hill, like when we turned and went up that first hill, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, that bike course was not an easy bike course either. So I think probably some of our local folks have biked out of Lake Las Vegas. There's some good hills right there, and they made you go up that hill right out of the hotel. That was hard. But you're on a mountain bike. Had you ridden much on the mountain bike prior to this?
Not more than 5-6 miles.
I love the confidence. That's great. So then, so you got going on the bike, and it's actually a hilly course.
It is. I was happy to be out on, was that Lake Mead? When you
Yeah.
can finally go out of Lake, oh, that was fine to be out on Lake Mead and back. Then I was like, oh no, I got to go back in Lake Las Vegas and finish.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's probably the only flat part of that course is that Lake Mead section.
And as far as having those hills to start with, that's you got so many valuable lessons out of that first triathlon. It's like, keep it in a low gear, just spin, and you try to go fast when you come out of the water and your legs go away. Right? So you learn so much.
I didn't do any bricks. I didn't do any run, swim, like bike runs, swim, bike.
Well,
I didn't even know what a brick was.
So since you had never done a brick, what was it like when you put the bike back on the rack and started to run again?
Walking.
Yeah.
Jello, rubber bands.
Yep.
And
We've
then you
all
went
been there.
straight back up that hill. And then they said you straight back up that big hill. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not an easy run either. And was that the time that they also had you out on the dirt path for the run?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good grief, that was a hard first triathlon.
Correct. And I remember that triathlon like it was yesterday.
So when you did something like that was so hard, you got a cold dog paddle swim in a murky lake, and then you have a mountain bike climbing hills, and then you come off and your legs aren't there. It's like, so did you automatically say, I'm not doing this ever again? Or did you
No, I was
say,
determined to make it easier on myself and train.
good for you? Yeah,
And that's
good.
why I trained, and I came back the next year and did that same triathlon.
And you PR'd it by 40 minutes,
Yeah, 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Yeah, that's cool.
And where did you make up most of the time in each sport, or where was
It's
the
in all of them and in transition, in everything.
wow?
I used to have the stats. I'll have to look for them. I used to have them side by side.
Oh, that's great. All right, so now you do this first Iron Girl. You decide you're going to do it again. When did you start saying I want to do more of these triathlons? Was that the same time you started picking up more races?
It's just when people would talk me into them, then I got people at Nellis Air Force Base to start doing them with me. So
Well, you've obviously ridden on Nellis, right?
yes, with
And
Rick.
yeah,
Uh,
and
but
that's
prior to that, I
wonderful.
did not. Yes, it is. I used to run on the Air Force Base all the time when I
I
worked.
rode I rode on there one time, and it was a blast. I just want to get hooked up on that again. So let me know when you're going to go out there again.
I sure will.
Mhm. All right, so then when did you move off of Iron Girl at that point and start exploring other races?
That's when we found BBSC and we started doing. I think my next one was Rage,
Okay.
and
And
I just did a
Ra-
couple here and there. I'm sorry.
and Rage is not an easy one either, because you have that dirt. You run along the actual lake beachfront, and then you turn and you go up that dirt hill. So that's not an easy course either.
Correct. And then we also did Xterra, which was in June, and that was in Lake Las Vegas too. And I think that was harder than Iron Girl because it was hot.
Yeah. But now you had the mountain bike for that. What did you use for Rage at that point? Still on the
Um,
mountain bike?
no, I had gotten a Cannondale CAD 10 road bike.
Okay.
I actually still have it. I ride it once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I got that in I think 2014.
All right, so now you've had a couple of races, you're working towards Rage. What is your training starting to look like going into an event? Like how much did you say, okay, here's where I need to be spending my time after your first Iron Girl and maybe even the second one?
I spent a lot of time in the water because I was that open water swim. It just wasn't fun, and
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in the water.
Uh,
To
Smart.
where I love swimming now. That's one of my favorite of the three is swimming.
Yep. Now, swimming is what I actually probably started off the same way, whereas I didn't like swimming at all. And now, I just love, I get in the water every chance I get. So when did you move up to do an Olympic? You did an Olympic soon after that.
I kind of skipped Olympic and went to 70.3 and then came back and did an Olympic.
So what was that like going from a sprint to a 70.3? Did you actually get some formal training?
Yes. I went to Raw Fitness in 2000, I believe it was 2017. And that's when there was a coach there that started a little triathlon group. And that's where I met Rick Stenjum and Dave Ellsworth. And we did Palm Springs together. And whatever, the end of the year, the freezing 53-degree water. Dave actually did a 70.3. I only did the sprint. But that's where we all met. And then Keith coached us on and that's when I first started doing bricks and started going, and we'd have meetups and we'd swim together and run together and bike together. So that's where my training started, was with Keith at Raw Fitness.
And who was it that you said led the training? Was that Dave or Rick?
No, it was a guy named Keith. It was a trainer from Raw Fitness.
Okay.
He put together a triathlon group from some of the members.
Okay.
So you have a real affinity for picking some of the races with the coldest water.
Yeah, I do.
Indian Wells is notorious. So you said it was like in the low 50s when you did it, huh?
Oh, I think it was 53 degrees.
Oh my, that is cold.
It was freezing.
It's real cold. You can't even buckle your helmet on your, you know, coming out of the water, trying to either tie shoes or buckle your helmet. It's like you just can't. Fingers don't work.
That's when I was
But
lucky I did the sprint.
but I like the course at Palm
Yeah.
Springs, just fast and flat.
Correct. As soon as you get out of the water, it was fun, man. I had the best time on the bike
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
run. Like I did a PR. I actually got second place, but they gave me first place. That's when I met Kate Olson.
Mhm.
And Kate's chip didn't work, so she actually beat me.
Oh.
No, this was a sprint at Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
No, Bob, you just got
I met Kate Olson there and Frank. I can't pronounce his last name. Starts with
Frank E.
There you go, Frankie.
Frank, you know who we're referring to. Yeah. Incella, I can't say it either. So, all right. So now, when did you do your first 70.3?
That was in Arizona.
Ah, okay. Another cold water swim.
Yes, it wasn't as cold as pool though in Arizona.
Oh, goodness. Okay, so now, how did you go from the training that you were doing for the sprints to then prepping for a 70.3?
That's when I met Randy Parr, and then he was my coach for all that.
Yep. Yeah, Randy's been a big constant here in Las Vegas. So yeah, that's great. Good. He's done a lot of long distance racing too. All right. So where did you start to spend the most time as you trained for the 70.3?
I felt like I was on the bike the most. I was
Mhm.
training on the bike a lot.
Wow. And
Yeah,
then
and that's smart too, because that's where you spend most of your time, especially in a 70.3. Most of the races is on the bike. I've noticed that you have an affinity for doing hard races. Have you ever picked one that was like, have you ever done an easy race?
Actually in Wisconsin, they used to have an iron girl there, and it was a nice, like the swim was not wetsuit legal, so it was nice and warm. And you swam across the lake, which was really fun, that you weren't swimming in a loop. You just swam straight to the other shore. And then like I averaged like 17 miles an hour on the bike, which is the fastest I've ever done. But that's when I first got my bike, and then the run was flat. That was my fastest race ever. But it was only a sprint, but it was fun.
But
Hey, I
yeah,
love
it's
sprints.
fun whenever you get the conditions right.
Correct.
I love sprints. And
And it
so,
was a day before my 40th birthday. So,
oh, how cool. That's a great way to celebrate. All right. So now talk us through what it was like doing the 70.3 versus the sprints.
a lot harder.
How
But I
so?
trained. But I trained being on the bike for that long, and then I'm not a good runner to get off the bike, and like I ran half of it maybe. But Dave was a good sport. He got on those electric scooters, and he chased us all over the course with candy. It was around Halloween time, and he had Halloween candy. So
Oh,
he was enticing us with Halloween candy to run faster.
I love it. You guys have such a good time. All right, so now your first race, you said you were excited getting to the start line. What was it like for the 70.3? Because now you've got this longer day in front of you. What was it like as you start? And was that 70.3 at that time a rolling start, or was that a
Yeah,
mass start?
it was a rolling
It was
start.
rolling. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're
I was nervous, but I
Yeah.
was in there. I was in the crowd with all my friends, but I was nervous.
Oh.
But I was, like I said, I was happy to get out of the water. The water was cold.
Oh yeah, it was. It is almost always at Tempe Lake. Okay, so how much? So now you've done some open water swimming though, as practice, and you have that under your belt at this point.
The only thing about that race in the water is you get beat up. People
Mm.
hit you, people run into you, they kick you. That's the only thing I didn't like about that race. And that's the only race that happened at. Like in Utah, it doesn't happen. In
Mhm.
Santa Rosa, it didn't happen.
Mhm.
I feel like you can't see.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
why is that? Is it a lot of people crammed into a narrow place, a narrow channel, or why is it? I haven't done that race.
I just think it's because of visibility. You can't see the person in front of you.
Yeah.
Like all the other races that I've done, you can see, and you can see the bottom and other people around you. That one you can't see. You can't even see your hand in front of you.
and the sunrise is coming up right in front of you.
Correct.
It's
But it was cool watching the buildings go by.
that it is. It's sort of a neat swim. I remember, and the airport is nearby, and sometimes you see an airplane landing as you go along.
Correct.
Some
And the
pretty
bridges,
cool.
you get to count the bridges. Okay, how
Yeah,
many bridges
yeah,
we go
yeah.
by?
All right, so now you're getting out of the swim, and same type of feeling, like you felt pretty accomplished at that point, or how did you feel getting out of the swim with that?
I did. I felt really good, and that was my first Ironman race, and the energy of the people just cheering for you. Like, they don't know you, and everyone just cheers for you. It gives you so much energy to get out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice.
And
Yeah,
coming down the chute of an Ironman race too. It's like these
Correct.
people are still here, and we're at the end of the back of the
I
pack.
was.
Yeah, because you to get out of the swim, was that the stairs that you had to get up and
No, we had the ramp
the ramp? Okay.
that time, and then you had to run like the half mile to the transition.
Yeah. And so now you get on your bike and you're feeling, this is old hat for you at this point for getting out there on that course.
Yeah, it was cold. So we didn't expect it to be so cold. So we had went to Walmart and bought some cheap sweatshirts that we put on, and it was cold. It was chilly in the morning. Your first loop of the bike.
Yeah, well, they did. I mean, you get out of a cold swim and then the desert air. It's now I can't remember. Is this in October? This is the October race, or is this?
October, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a cool time. So
Did
but I love how you quickly. That was me. I don't know. It's a UNLV test. But I love how you just adapt. And it sounds like you went out and got some extra warm gear that you could put on and then throw away. Is that right?
Right. At an aid station, I left it there when I finally warmed up.
How long did it take you to warm up?
Just the first loop.
Yeah.
Just because that cold wind when you're wet.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point about, it got cold. You went and got a sweatshirt. It's almost like you have a problem to solve in every race. So there's something goes wrong.
I do. Even my full, I had a problem to solve.
One of the things that now you're doing these races, and you've done an Ironman. So how did you switch, or are you ready to transition, John? We'll talk about this.
Well, yeah, I was going to get a sense of what it was like to finish the 70.3, and then what did that lead to?
It was awesome. It was great to run down that mat and hear them call your name, and all my friends were at the end. They're all faster than me. So they were all at the end to cheer me on. It was awesome. It was great. It was a good feeling. It makes you want to do more races, of course, after you finish.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. That is a neat finish in Arizona. So how long after you finished that 70.3 did you say, okay, I'm going to go for a full?
They talked me into it the next month.
Who's the day that talked you into this?
Everybody: Dave, Rick, Frank, Crystal, Ryan. We had 7 of us.
Yeah.
And then which race was it? Which Ironman?
We did Arizona the next year.
Okay.
That's the only full I've done is Arizona.
That's great. Okay, so now now you've gone from sprint, you did 70.3, you've done the Olympic. How did you adjust your training to get ready for the full?
Oh, we did some long days of training.
Yeah.
Long. We would bike. We biked up and down the 95 a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think we did more biking than anything. Me, Ryan, and Crystal actually biked around the city. That was so much fun. We took all the trails to the wetlands, and then through Henderson, Red Rock, and back. I think that was my favorite ride ever.
Yeah.
It took us 8 hours, but we did it.
Yeah, the north side, even then was still sort of patchy with bike paths. So
Correct.
yeah, that's great. All right.
Did you plan that ahead of time, or did you just say, well, let's keep going did you have a route?
Ryan did. Ryan Taylor had it all planned out, had it all written down and loaded into his Garmin. He was our tour guide.
Okay. I've got to do more of that. I'm not the best planner in the world, so that's something I need to do too. That's sounds like a great ride to do also.
I have some great teammates who plan some great training.
Yeah,
Very
that's
good.
great.
Christina's another one of them. She plans all kinds of trainings.
So compare and contrast the Ironman to the 70.3 or even the sprint. What was the Ironman like?
Halfway through, I didn't want to do it. Like halfway through training, I was like, no, I don't think I want to do this. And Randy's like, you can do this.
Yeah,
He was like my biggest cheerleader. He's like, no, I know you can do this.
yeah.
So
Well,
he talked.
that's what's great about surrounding herself with people who have some great knowledge, and then also some other people who you're doing it with, because yeah, everyone has a low point in training, and it's good to get carried through sometimes on that.
Correct, because I did not want to do it. I was finding every excuse in the world to not do it.
Hey, Carrie, I'm curious, for my own benefit, is what's the hardest part of the Ironman for you? Of the actual race?
The run, only because I hurt myself on the bike. My top strap of my right shoe, the top the bolt came out, so my foot was sitting in my shoe. It happened at mile 5 on the bike, so my foot wasn't sitting in the shoe and it kept rubbing, so I had a blister the size of a quarter on the top, on the forefront of my foot, out of my foot, and I got tendonitis in my right knee. So when I got off the bike and tried to run, I was like, oh, this hurts really bad.
Oh no.
And you still did 26 miles.
I did. I didn't want to, but I did. I was like, I did the swim and the bike. I might as well get the run out of the way.
Wow.
Let's finish this.
I walked 98% of it, but I averaged a 15-minute mile walking.
Yeah, that's great.
And you made cutoffs.
Correct.
You finished, yeah. There you go.
Correct. I finished with 32 minutes to spare.
That's awesome. Well, that is again, Bob mentioned, problem solving. I mean, that's having a problem on mile 5 of a 112-mile bike ride, and you still did it. That's amazing. That's problem solving, trying to figure out a way to get to that finish line.
Yeah, and that's tough.
Everything to make my foot not slide out of my shoe, but that's hard. I tightened everything else down. I was like, I wish I had duct tape or something.
No. All right, so you've got a lot of experience under your belt. So what advice do you turn around and give to new triathletes?
I'm actually helping my friend Jen train for Rage, and I'm trying to get her to go out to the lake. And every time we go, it's windy. But I'm trying to get her to do the Tri Club race with us and just do the swim. Sorry, my dogs are going crazy. But just get in the water and do some open water swimming is probably like would have helped me the best.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, thank you for
sorry.
No, that's all right. Ours do the same thing. They just like to make an appearance on the spotlight.
Yes.
And that's a great thing about the Tri Club event, is that the intensity of the race is a little bit lower. So it's a good way to experience at least the swim part, and which a lot of people are often anxious about. So
correct.
That's great. Well, I love it.
What do you have planned? What do you have planned for 2022 for this season?
Well, I'm doing the Tri Club race, and then I'm doing Sand Hollow Olympic, and then we're doing Oregon 70.3, and then IMCA. Wow.
You got
how much training I can get in.
You're gonna have to throw a sprint, an Olympic in there. You got everything else.
I'm doing the Olympic at Sand Hollow.
Okay, so you're doing all 4 distances in this year.
Correct.
We're gonna have to talk to you again at the end of the year, and so you can compare and contrast, the 4 races.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Of all these races you've done, what has been your favorite one?
I thought Iron Girl in Wisconsin is probably my favorite one, and my family was there.
Yeah.
From back, because my dad's from Wisconsin, so I have a lot of family there. So my whole family was there to cheer me on to the finish line. So it was really cool.
I bet it was.
That makes it a lot of fun. Well, Carrie, this has been so good to hear how you got in, and it's a great sort of bookending this talk with you in terms of starting with Iron Girl and now we're ending with Iron Girl. I mean, that first race just is a neat experience, and so it's great to hear. So thanks for jumping on. Good luck in the raffle tomorrow.
Mhm.
So maybe you'll get one more 70.3 race in on top of your busy schedule already.
Tell you, it won't be Hawaii. That race was miserable. That's probably my most miserable race.
And
Is
why is
Hawaii?
that?
Hawaii. That wind.
Yeah.
It was the race that we did. Was it last year? No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That swim is like you were in a washing machine, then the 40-mile-an-hour gusts on the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd rather climb a mountain than ride in the wind. You're right.
I
One-
finished, but not in time, but I finished it
Yeah.
I think 8:40, 8 hours, 40 minutes. But
And the humidity.
oh yeah, that run, there was not a flat part. It was
No.
up or down.
It doesn't.
Hey, one thing I really appreciate you coming on and talking about was the fact that all of these races had something going on that you had to solve a problem and kept going. And it's good for people to know that things don't go smoothly all the time, and you can figure it out and still finish. And every one of your races, either dog paddling, in a tight wetsuit in a murky water, or having your boot, defective shoe and all that stuff. You're tough. I appreciate that.
I just keep going. Just don't stop.
Be like Nemo, just keep moving, right?
Correct. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Well, thank you again for doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. And you surround yourself with great people, and you're one of them, and it's really a lot of fun to always follow you and see what you're doing. And it just looks like you really enjoy the sport and the training and the events. So thanks for getting on and talking with us. This has been great.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.